Alright guys, welcome to episode number 4 of Tardis Talk with myself and Elle, in which we'll be recapping what happened in the latest episode before the flood, which seen the Doctor travel back in time to take on the Fisher King. So Elle, what did you make of this episode? Because we actually got quite a lot of this right. We knew the ghosts were electromagnetic, the Doctor was in the stasis chamber, he had a different message when he was the ghost, and the reason Lund wasn't attacked. So what did you think of it? Was it too predictable, or did you enjoy it?
I thought it was like a much better episode. It was a much more compact and concise episode, and it made a lot more sense than the first one did. So I could overlook some of the predictable things because, quite frankly, when it comes to Doctor Who, most of the time we can figure out how he's going to survive, like through the stasis chamber and things. So it's not something that we're not used to already. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. I really liked it. I thought it was a good episode, and it wrapped things up nicely. We had like proper explanations for it instead of just you kind of timey-wimey stuff, which it was in a way, but we did like get the explanation for it. And even though some things were predictable, sometimes the predictable things are the best way to go with this.
yeah, and I much preferred that it was like a paradox like type explanation because I can't remember, apart from things like the Doctor's wife and Father's Day, we haven't had one like that in a long time.
It has been quite a while. I mean, I mentioned this before. I think the last time we've seen this kind of same explanation was in the Blink episode with David Tennant and with Martha as the companion. So
Yeah.
that was exactly the same thing. We had the Doctor sort of stuck, stranded in time, and he sent himself a message to the future, which he'd hidden in the DVD extras. But he only knew what to say in those because he then read the transcripts from the people in the future. So it was the same kind of thing, and I absolutely loved Blink. That was an awesome episode. So I liked the way this done it. One thing I didn't like, though, was the introduction and the way they explained it, because it was kind of like a spoiler for the episode. It was telling you exactly what was going to happen, and fair enough, we knew what was going to happen, we predicted it, but it felt a bit too much. I thought that could have fitted in at the end.
Yeah, I can't fully understand why they chose to do that. Like, it didn't really need doing, and maybe it was just like an excuse for him to play the guitar again or something.
It was a good excuse, though. I loved the intro, the fact that they brought the guitar into it.
It was so much better. Like, I've read online that it was only for this episode, but hopefully if people loved it, maybe they'll keep it in.
Absolutely. I think like they tend to change it a little bit for each Doctor. And I think this could be like Capaldi's thing. It kind of fits in with him like having that guitar in the first episode. So I loved the new theme.
Yeah, I won't mind him having the guitar if it's only for like these small things. I just don't want him having it like a sunglasses add-on.
Yeah, he doesn't have to like use it all the time. But like, in terms of the theme, I absolutely loved it. What did you make of him kind of breaking the fourth wall and talking straight to the camera?
Personally, I didn't mind. I don't think it needed to be done, but we've kind of seen like elements of this before. Like, I'm sure companions for ones have done it before. Like, I know when Rose went out of it, she kind of broke the fourth wall and things. I didn't mind it too much. It didn't need to be done at all.
Well, we have seen it like a couple of times in the past. I think the two examples that like I've heard of were Tom Baker turning to the camera and saying like, I don't think the sonic screwdriver is going to get us out of this one. And then we had William Hartnell in a Christmas episode turn to the camera and wish everyone watching a Merry Christmas. So the second one I can kind of get, that's more of like a Christmas thing. So maybe it's a bit different. But for me, it just felt a bit out of place. I don't know if I would even like put it in the context of the episode or of this kind of like a scene not in the episode itself and just for the viewers.
I think the only explanation I can give it is maybe they put it there because they said, right, the Doctor's got like this timey-wimey explanation, and it made you think, well, if he's telling you, then maybe he's not going to go along with it. Maybe he's going to like break his own rules.
Well, the Doctor does lie. We did find that out in the episode. Or the Fisher King found that out in the episode.
Oh, he's not accustomed to telling a lie, you two.
He's not. It's something that he does quite often, so we should be used to it by now. So we're going to jump into kind of this week's talking points. So we've already kind of explained some of the things that I've got right. There was quite a few things that I picked up on. Aside from the introduction that we got, they did kind of tell you to Google the bootstrap paradox, just so you were kind of clued up with this. I know you went and done this. What did you find when you Googled it?
Well, like a lot of complication. Basically, the other word for it is a causal loop, and the definition of a paradox bootstrap is a paradox of time travel that occurs when a later event is the cause of an earlier event through some sort of time travel. The past event is then partly or entirely the cause of the future event, which is the past event's cause, which is a total mouthful, but there's your explanation.
Well, there you go. We've got like the technical term for it. It makes sense, I think, if you've actually seen the episode. Then it's just something that there is no real start to it. It's just a continuous loop. So it's one thing starting because it's seen something in the future. So no one actually ever starts it. It's just continuing. So,
yeah, and it's definitely a headache type thing.
it is. If you think about it too long, it just completely does your head in. And I think that's like a lot of the case with Doctor Who. There's like some explanations where if you think about it too much, it completely racks your brain.
Yeah, they kind of make it simple, and then when you take a step back and try to take it all in, it's quite complex, actually.
It is. It's probably a good thing that they've simplified things. It's just when we go and look into it, I think we find a little bit too much.
It's probably why I said Google it.
Absolutely. I'm sure everyone did, and they're all completely confused now. So, the next point we're going to talk on is the Fisher King. What did you make of the Fisher King?
I loved him. Like, I don't understand why he wasn't in the first episode, because he was like a really good monster. And like I said last time, he reminded me of like something from Resident Evil. He's like the spitting image of it. And he had like the incarnation of like something else from Resident Evil, like something called Nemesis. And he was like this big empowering force, and you didn't see him that much, but like you could feel his presence, like with his roars and like his loud footsteps. And I really liked him. It was just a shame that he wasn't really in it that much.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a letdown, because like he's got such a great look. He looks like a really formidable monster, and especially with that roar. I think it says that they had Corey Taylor from Slipknot come in to record that. So
yeah,
it was a cool thing that they'd done that. And he had that presence about him, but he didn't seem to live up to his potential. He didn't seem to like do too much in the end. He killed like the guy in the past, Prentice, and he killed O'Donnell, but he spared the Doctor. He didn't do too much bad. So I think we kind of got let down a little bit. We didn't seem too much of him. Do you think he's still alive? Is he something we could revisit?
I think this is probably where that mural leads in that we were talking about last time. Maybe that's like telling the story that he's going to turn into the serpent creature, and that's how he's going to escape through the flood and swim off somewhere else.
Yeah, that could be the case, because we mentioned this last time. You brought up the painting and how it kind of resembled the face from him, and he was sort of depicted as kind of a serpent. So with all this water coming in and taking him away, maybe, I don't know what his origins are, or the kind of species that he is, but if he was able to survive in the water, then maybe sort of that could depict what happened in the later years, so kind of post-1980. And maybe, like, being set in the future, that mural depicts sort of that monster terrorizing the local villages.
I think that's kind of where we got like the Loch Ness thing from as well. And when you did see the dam breaking down, he wasn't scared. He just like embraced the wave type thing. So maybe he knows he can survive and swim off or whatever.
Yeah, he didn't seem too bothered. He sort of opened up his arms and he kind of welcomed it. So, I don't know, it was kind of really not what I was expecting, because I don't know if you can remember the trailer for this series, but we're seeing him in the trailer at that moment, and it kind of looked as though he was like controlling the water.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, so I was kind of surprised that it was his downfall.
Yeah, I was really surprised at that. It'd be interesting to kind of watch the trailer back now and see what's in there, because I think a lot of it could be completely out of context, and even the stuff that we've seen, it'll be interesting to see just how the kind of taken it is in the trailer compared to what we're actually seeing in the episode.
Yeah, it's quite deceiving, like, when you look at some of the clips, like, I know with the Missy bits and, like, the Fisher King is used there, it's definitely not as we thought it would be.
Yeah, it's good to do that, because it completely throws you off and takes you, like, unexpectedly when it happens.
Yeah.
So, the next talking point that I've got is about the Doctor himself. He always makes a point of saying, you know, he can't go back and change things, but did or could the Doctor actually change time in this episode?
That's where I was, like, really confused. Like, was it the Doctor all along? It's kind of something we saw from, like, the first two episodes, and something we're seeing a lot more now. I'm not sure if he changed anything or because I don't know, because he saw certain things, they always had to be that way. Kind of like Angels in Manhattan, I think it was called, because they read the book. That's how things had to happen.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could be a case of he could have changed things, but because he's copying off everything that happened in the future, maybe he's tried to, but inevitably he's given himself that list in the order that it happens. So he always knew O'Donnell was next, and that was because he submitted that list in the future. So that's what his ghost said. I think he did try to change it, because he offered O'Donnell the chance to stay in the TARDIS by saying that he needed someone like staying there. So he gave her that opportunity. It was just her sort of enthusiasm and wanting to go out and be a part of this adventure. That's what's kind of ultimately got her killed.
It was interesting to see him, like, kind of break his own rules and say he will change time for Clara and things. It was just a matter of, like, why was he willing to do that when he's never done it before?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something that he probably knew there was kind of ways he could play about with it. And I think he knew as he sort of said in the episode, the Fisher King had been sort of messing around with life and death, and that wasn't for him to do. So the Doctor was going to do the same kind of thing to kind of counteract that. One thing I would say about O'Donnell, and the reason I think she could have been saved, is we didn't see her ghost until after the point where she actually died in the past. So we had that link between the past and the future with the phone call, and it was only after those events played out that that ghost appeared.
It was such a shame as well, because for me, O'Donnell was like another one of these characters where I could have happily seen her come back maybe when Clara's gone. So it was a real shame, and I was kind of like disappointed once her ghost did show up and we knew she wasn't going to return or anything.
Yeah, it was disappointing because like I always like that kind of character where it's like it's your geeky kind of fan, but in the show, so she like knows the history of the Doctor and knows what's going on, and it's like that's like us. That's our representation in the show. So it was really sad to see her actually die. I would love to see her survive.
It was interesting to get like more touch on Unit as well, and I know there's a Unit story coming in, but it was saying how she was like military intelligence and things, and they touched upon some of the events that have happened before. So it was nice to get a bit of background, as opposed to last week where we only got the names and we didn't really get a feel for the character. Yeah,
absolutely. It was good to get that background in there and just sort of explain how she did know about the Doctor, because we had that last week and we didn't really get the explanation for it. You mentioned that this kind of felt a bit like the Father's Day episode. So what do you think would have happened should the Doctor have let Bennett interfere? Do you think it would have been the same case as what we're seeing in Father's Day, where the Reapers from Time actually come in to kind of cleanse that paradox?
I don't know. It's an iffy one. I would have liked to see it personally, because I can't remember what the monsters were called, but I really like that episode. It's not something over the top. It's quite subtle, like with what it does. I kind of think it probably could have been averted, but for some reason the Doctor didn't want to.
So yeah, I think it was just because like they were in their own time stream. So the bit earlier where he says for O'Donnell to stay in the Tardis, I think that's something that he could easily have done and kept her in there and she'd still be alive. But because she then died and they got to the point where they've seen her, then if they did change it then that was an actual change of past events, whereas before it hadn't happened yet, so they could have easily changed it. But because this would have changed something that had just happened, I think that would have kind of led to the same events that we've seen in Father's Day, where they sort of come to take care of that paradox.
Yeah, I think something that confused me as well was the pattern of the Fisher King, because you see, I can't remember what the priest was called off the top of my head. He was talking to the three of them. Then they go away. But by that time, the Doctor and the man were watching. Is it Priestess or something like that?
It was Prentice, the name of the...
Prentice, that's the one. And you never see him get killed. It was just like strange, because the Fisher King was in the church and that's where the Doctor goes. It's like a chunk of time missing, and I don't know if that's something that's going to come back later on, because the Doctor said he was going to take care of something.
Yeah, so like it makes it like kind of wonder what the Doctor went to take care of. Do you think maybe that was where he went to like set up his ghost for the future?
I think that's the only explanation, because I can't see where else it would have fit in the episode. I know you mentioned that possibly he could have done it in the stasis chamber, but I don't know. I think that's the thing, when they don't address things, you can easily slot other theories into it.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think maybe if he'd done it in that time frame, it kind of like explains it a little bit. Because if he was in the stasis chamber, I think he would have been sort of suspended in animation, like with them saying it was a suspended animation chamber. Then he wouldn't actually be able to do anything in there. Otherwise, sort of, if he was alive the full time, it's going to be pretty boring in there. If he's in there for like 140 years, he's going to age quite a bit as well.
Well, it's not something you haven't saw again either as well. That happened, like, I know we compared like the Doctor's timeline in the first few episodes of this series to The Impossible Astronaut, and that's something we saw then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that, you know, it's not explained exactly, but it's something for us to think about. And I think that probably makes a bit of sense. So that
as much sense as it possibly could do when it's like timey-wimey.
Exactly. There's never too much sense, but we can take a little bit of it. So the next kind of talking point, we touched on this last week. Is Clara dying, or is she just affected by Danny's death? What's your take on this?
I definitely think she's dying. There was a lot more touch on death yet again. For example, when the Doctor brought up the hearse, Clara had already reacted to the Doctor possibly being dead, but as soon as like the Doctor mentioned the hearse, it was almost like it kind of set something off within her, and they had like a discussion about, and the Doctor said we have to prepare ourselves for either our own death or someone else's, and I think maybe the doctor does know that she's dying or something, because Clara was saying she's not ready, it's not her time, basically. So I definitely think there's something wrong with Clara. Maybe it's some sort of virus, or I'm not sure. I definitely think there's something going on there.
See, when you said this, I think it kind of makes sense, like, based not just on this episode, but also like some of the things were said in the past. And it was something that we kind of agreed on last time as well, when we'd brought back points from like the first episode where it's asked which one of them was dying. I think it's something that could be happening. I think it's an interesting angle to go with it, and being something that the doctor cannot really save her from if it is an actual illness. The only thing is, I still kind of think that maybe this is just a case of her being affected by Danny's death. And for all the ghosts that we've seen in this episode, I think the ghost that we didn't see is Danny, and that's still haunting her, and the fact that she's lost him, and there's nothing that she can actually do about that. And I think the line that kind of set me off on that trail of thought was when she says to the doctor, when he's talking about dying, "You've made yourself essential to me. You've given me something else to be." But the pause in there, it made me think what she was actually going to say is, "You've given me something else to live for." So that she kind of felt her life was over when Danny died, but because the doctor's there, it gives her something else to concentrate on, and that kind of takes her mind off it, and it's actually giving her something else to live for.
I think that's the thing. It could easily be read like either way. Like, is she running away from an illness, or is she running away from grief?
It's a good question. Which one is she kind of run from? She's definitely running, but at the end of the episode, we see her sort of doing the opposite. And when Bennett's questioning what he's supposed to do now that O'Donnell's gone, she actually tells him, you know, there's a whole world out there, a galaxy, a life, and then asks what O'Donnell would have wanted. So maybe she's coming around to that way of thinking. I'm not too sure. I think this is something that's going to play out through the series, and we're going to get more moments like this. I
think if that is the case, like, if it is grief, I think we'll get that answer next week. Maybe she'll be like more lively or not. If she is dying, then I definitely think the doctor's got a notion as well, because as soon as he realised that she was in this, like, I can't explain, like, the mind frame she was in, he was pretty much prepared to, like, give up another regeneration and die. But as soon as he had the phone call with Clara, he was adamant that he was going to change the past and things just to save Clara.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So I think he kind of realises now what Clara means to him. And, you know, we've seen it in the episode with the Daleks where he thought she died and how much it meant to him there. So I think now he's realised, you know, he's going to do everything he possibly can to try and save Clara. And if he knows she's dying, then maybe he wants to do that just to kind of prolong her life and, you know, give her something to live for.
And having adventures with the doctor is definitely one way. And as well, just thinking about it, when Amy Pond was pregnant, he had the scanner. So maybe he's already done the scanning, like, in an earlier episode. I definitely think there's, I know we said in the first 2 episodes, it, like, feels out of place, like there's something missing before all of that. Maybe there's going to be an episode that does take place before all these, and the doctor finds out that she's dying or something, because there was talk in this episode as well about not being able to save someone, but seeing them dead on a slab and not being able to change that. So maybe this is the doctor's way of making her life a little bit better or something before she does die.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe if, like, he knows that's going to happen, he just wants to sort of give her the best life that she can possibly have before sort of the inevitable happens.
I definitely think it's something we're going to see throughout the series, whether it be grief or an illness. I don't think it's the last we've seen of it.
Well, it's a running theme at the minute with death, so I think this is going to, like, continue for the entire series.
It's just going to make me, like, cry and stuff.
It's going to be tragic when it happens, but, you know, like the doctor said, it's something that we've all got to be prepared for.
Oh, thanks.
So that kind of covers the episode itself. There were, like, a few of the little tiny points that I want to point out. So the first thing we're going to bring up is something that O'Donnell said, because she mentioned some of the things that took place after the time they were in 1980. So she mentioned things like Harold Saxon, and one of the things that she mentioned that hasn't actually happened, and the doctor kind of mentioned to her when she brought it up, was the Master of War. So we don't know what this is. It hasn't happened yet. It's something in the doctor's future. What do you think this is? Do you think this is going to be something that we see quite soon, or could it be far in the future, or is it just a throwaway line?
Well, not to be picky, but she said the Minister of War.
Was it the Minister of War? Was
yeah, the Minister. And I think from, if my memory serves well, it's someone within Parliament. So I was wondering, is this Minister of War someone who takes, because the way she listed it, it was in like chronological order of events. So they had the Minister of War, the Saxon, and the Kill the Moon episode with the dragon thing that comes out of the moon.
Uh-huh.
So I was wondering, was it something that happens between Harriet Jones being the Prime Minister, then whoever took over, and that being the Minister of War era, and then Harold Saxon, and maybe then we'll get something to do with Missy, and maybe the Master will have some sort of meeting up or something along those lines, because we still haven't got the clarification of why the Master turned into Missy or something.
Yeah, that's something that's still unresolved. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm just thinking of the Master at the minute with the Master of War. But one thing I've just noticed there when you kind of mentioned them is the episodes that he brings up with Harold Saxon. There was a big paradox in that with the Tocnafane. So we're speaking of paradoxes in this. Kill the Moon, that had like the paradox as well.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of like examples in it. One thing that she also said, again, it could just be like something that is a bit throwaway and it's not really to be picked up on, but she didn't list Donna as a companion. So do you think there's a reason behind that?
See, I totally missed that at first. So, and I think the Doctor did as well, because he didn't like react to it. I wasn't too sure, but you had like an interesting idea.
Well, my kind of theory on it was maybe that Donna's not listed in the unit database, or maybe she is listed, but it's like above O'Donnell's pay grade. Because obviously if someone was to get in touch with Donna, trying to find the Doctor, and it was to bring back them thoughts, then we know it would be a case of, overloading Donna's memory and sort of burning her out where it could kill her. So maybe that's the reason why she's not actually listed, and it's in there for Donna's safety.
It's hard not to think of something important to come from that, because why wouldn't they just throw her name in? Because it wouldn't have made a difference if they did mention her. Like, Donna's not around, so as being like a huge Donna fan, I'm hoping that maybe we're going to get something down the line to do with Donna. Maybe there's going to be like a small run-in, just a cameo or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was a huge Donna fan as well, and I think a lot of people, they kind of have that same idea behind it. We would love to see Donna actually return for something, because it's kind of sad the way that she was wrote out of it, and she can't actually remember it. So she's going back to like her old life, and it's as if none of this ever happened.
Maybe now that he's got a new face, maybe that he can have a chat with her and not make her brain explode.
Yeah, you can pop in, just like have a little conversation with her, just catch her all up, see what she's been up to. I would love to see that.
And then, knowing Donna, they'll probably have like some sort of argument.
Oh, it's always going to be an argument. So that would be really cool to see. One thing that I don't really think is cool to see, Sonic sunglasses. Are they growing on you?
No, not in the slightest. Just totally looked out of place. And there was like one scene where he plugs them into something, and in the past we've seen like the screwdriver being plugged in, and the sunglasses just look ridiculous.
It did. It looked crazy. It was like, oh god, why haven't you got a sonic screwdriver? That would be the perfect moment to use it. But instead he's plugging like the side of the sunglasses in, and it just makes me think like Moffat's saying, look, we can use the sunglasses in all different ways. Don't fret about it. We can still plug it into things. It looked so out of place. And I know we've seen him like plug things into the sort of consoles and stuff in the past, like Rose's phone, but it's what you want to see the screwdriver used for. You don't want to see sunglasses stuck into it. It looks so out of place.
See, I think what makes it worse for me personally is it looks like the 3D glasses you get from the cinema, like the really basic ones. And it's just like, oh, for God's sake, like I can go to the cinema and get a pair if I want some.
Exactly. Let's all go. Maybe we can get like some Sonic sunglasses. We can catch a Christmas special in them or something. I'm sure they're doing like a 3D version. We can all wear them. It'll be like a gimmick thing.
We can all do like a cosplay event.
Exactly. That'd be so cool. We'll have to do that.
I think the thing is, like, they worked alright for like the mind wiping thing of the signal. It worked fine for that, but then for everything else, it doesn't fit in. It's no right counterpart, but you need something like the Sonic to do the purpose of like checking the doors and things, because really, you're not just going to look through sunglasses.
Exactly. So it's something that could complement the screwdriver. So I say have both of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to having both of them, but sunglasses on their own, not a fan at all.
Yeah, totally not a fan. So one other thing we're going to bring up a little bit here is next week's episode, because it has the potential to be a huge episode. We've got a big guest star in Maisie Williams. So I guess the first question in terms of next week's episode, just going off the trailer, so we're not going to really go into too much spoilers or anything here. What do you think of Maisie Williams? What's your prediction for her? Who do you see her being?
Well, personally, I've never seen her in anything before. I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. I've never watched it or anything, so I don't know like what her acting capabilities are like. But I recently rewatched Name of the Doctor, and I can't help thinking like there's more Clara stuff going on, mainly because I want it to happen. And like the splinters of Clara growing up in every century and things, and it shows you as a child. I was wondering maybe is Maisie going to be like a splinter of Clara at a younger age or something?
That could be an interesting way to take it, because we're always seeing these splinters of Clara at the same age. So maybe like an early version of Clara, she must have grown up somewhere. So it could be, it's a way to go around it. We do know that she's named differently in this though, because Stephen Moffat's actually said in terms of the description for the episode, she's going to be named Ishilda. So we've done a little bit of research on this, and the name is the combination of the words in Norse, God and battle. So maybe she's the god of battle. What's your take on it?
Well, it seems like we're getting all historian and revising like every little detail. The second part, Hilda, is the name of a Valkyrie, which is a host of female figures who choose those who may die in battle and those who may live. Hilda had the power to revive the dead in the battlefield and used it to maintain the everlasting battle between Hayden and Hogni.
Yeah, so it makes sense, doesn't it? It's kind of all this North mythology with the Vikings that we're going to see in this episode. And we've also got the father of Thor in there, so we've got Odin, or at least someone that is pretending to be Odin as he sort of leads this battle into this war that the Doctor's going to have, because he's going to have to put together his own sort of troops in this episode, and that's kind of what it's going to play around. So we did actually see in this Next Time trailer the Doctor preparing sort of his men to go into this battle, and when one of them drops a sword, we see the Doctor kind of scratch his head in reaction to it, like, oh my god, what's going on? So when you see him scratch his head, it shows off the ring that he's got on his finger, and this is something that's been in all the promotional images. And it made me think, is this just the Doctor scratching his head, or was this done on purpose with this shot to show off that ring? Because I think there's something behind it.
It wouldn't be the first time like they've teased us with the ring. I remember with Donna, in her very last episode, she had a ring that wasn't similar, but they made like a point of it glowing in like a specific way to maybe tease the fans. I don't know if this is like another nod, because it's like a Gallifreyan ring by the looks of it, like the detail. So it could be a case of details, or maybe there's something behind it.
Well, apparently it's going to be something behind it, because the reason for it in the first place was that Capaldi didn't want to take off his wedding band. So to kind of counter that, what they've done and hide it is they had something made that resembled something that was done on Gallifrey, and I think it was also a reference to like the first Doctor's ring that he might have worn. So this was made up as a way to kind of cover the wedding band, but they said it was actually going to be playing a part in the story. So I don't know, this is a bit of a crazy theory, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Could Gallifrey be inside the ring, inside the gemstone? Kind of similar to Men in Black, because we had the galaxy is on Orion's belt in that film, and it turned out that the galaxy was hidden inside something the size of a marble on the cat's collar. So could Gallifrey be locked away inside the gemstone on the Doctor's ring, hidden in plain sight?
I definitely think it's possible, but then where the hell did he get the ring?
Well, we don't know yet, because we're still going to explore this in his involvement in actually saving Gallifrey, because we've seen him in the 50th anniversary special, but apparently that's something that we're going to see in this series.
Oh, well, you know more than I for one.
Well, maybe we could see what happens. I think it'd be quite cool. I don't think it will. It's something I thought, like, it might make sense. It could be a reason for the ring, and it's sort of hid there in plain sight, and the Doctor doesn't know. Maybe their memories are locked until it actually happens. So it could be quite cool. So one other thing that we've actually been told about this episode by Stephen Moffat himself is that this episode, episode number 5, it's the day that the Doctor remembers where he's seen his own face. So we know that we've seen this face in the past, and it was something that in his debut episode when we started last season, he'd actually looked in the mirror and he'd seen the face and questioned where he'd seen it before. So it looks like we're finally going to get some answers from it. Do you have any theories on how this is going to go?
If it's Moffat, he'll probably just do it, like slip it in somewhere, and it's probably easy to go over. Kind of like the phone call from Clara and the Doctor, when it turned out that Missy was the one that brought them together. That was something like that just glazed over. I hope it's not a case that I want something to have like a meaning behind it. I'm not sure what he will do.
Yeah, I think this is a strange episode to do it. I think sort of the time period that's in, being sort of the Vikings and things, I was kind of expecting this to take place maybe in Pompeii again. So it seems a bit out of place. I'm not too sure how they're going to go about it, but I hope there's like a proper explanation to it. I'm really looking forward to it because I think this is like a huge deal. It's something that we really need explained, and I can't wait to see how it actually plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just hope they don't waste like a really good opportunity. I think I would have more expected it in the Zygon episode, especially because they changed faces and things. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage to put this theme with that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of potential for next week. It should be an awesome episode. Lots going on. So that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. But let us know your thoughts on the episode itself and all the talking points that we've discussed. So what did you think of the Fisher King? Did or could the Doctor change time? Is Clara dying or is she still affected by Danny's death? And what do you think of next week's preview? Let us know your thoughts in the comments or get in touch with us via Twitter. You can tweet me at Smack Network.
And you can tweet me at Revolution.
So make sure to let us know what you think. We'll look forward to hearing your thoughts. And until next time.
See you later.